All right, people. Right. So let's move to the next one. Now that we have seen various elements, various things in Power Query, I'm sorry, in Power BI. I think we've recently seen how can we add data, what kind of data addition techniques are there, how can we, add various types of data, or the various throws. What are the various data sources through which we can, import data into Power BI. And I think we have already seen a glimpse of transform data in the previous case. So that's what we are, going to take it ahead now. Right. So let me actually do one thing. Let me take up a data from Excel workbook and give you a this thing glimpse about this. One is I can straight away click over here from Excel workbook and enter into a Power BI file, and we can straight away take data over here, or you can start a blank report. A blank report will be something like this, which has nothing in it. As you can see, these are the three panes over here in a report view. There's nothing over here. So as I've already mentioned, that you can do multiple things from same points over here. So this is the case. We can click on get data over here. We can click on get data over here as well. Now these are all the sources that we have seen already. Let me take up a case over here, Excel workbook. And let me try and take up some or the other data over here. Let me do one thing. I think let me take this up. Okay, let me see. Let me go for all files. Let's see what comes up. So I have a lot of files over here, a lot of different kind of files. I just want a okay. If I click on this Excel over here, right, which is your call center sentiment data. Now this is an Excel. Now as I've clicked on the import data from Excel, it is giving me all the options in that particular location of Excel. Now if I click on get data and go to something like text CSV, which is basically CSV files, in the same folder it's going to give me option of all the CSV files that we have in any folder it goes for, right? So if I go for this, it is giving me all the CSV files which will be there in that folder. Okay, right now let me go back to Excel and go to downloads over here. Let's just take any data over here. Let me take this particular data, call center sentiment analysis, and if I take this data, now this is an option which comes up over here, which says that okay, these are the two things that we have over here. One is call center data, which is your original data, and this is the suggested data. Let me do one thing. Let me take both the data over here so that we can actually discuss about how intelligent at times Power BI treats your data. Okay, now if I click on both the options, Power BI is ready to either transform both the data sets or intake or load both the data sets in your Power BI. Right now, as we are seeing, Power Query Editor will not be loading this data. If I load this data, the data gets loaded in Power BI. Now you can work on data modeling, or you can work on creating visualization and reports using this. But that's not the objective of this session. This session will like to see how can we enter into, how can we basically, let me delete this first. How can we transform the data? So I'll just delete this and do the same thing again. Okay. Right. So there is no data. Now I'll go to get data again. Go to Excel file and let me try and connect it. This is the one. I'll just connect it again. Right, and as usual, Power BI is giving you two data sets. The two data sets are absolutely same. One is the suggested one, the blue one over here are the suggested table. Here it is just the clean table over here, right? If I click on this, and now I'll transform data. The moment I click on transform data, I'm taken to another sub tool of Power Query, which is Power Query Editor. Now allow me to talk about Power Query Editor a bit over here, right? So I think I've already done it, but I'll just take a 30 seconds pause over here from the screen and take you guys to what Power Query Editor can do. Okay. All right. So if I talk about Power Query Editor now, let me take up a pen. Yeah. Right. That's not. Thank you very much. Okay, probably it's too broad. I'll just do one thing. Let me see. I think 2 should be enough for us. Yeah, cool. Thanks, sir. Great. So now I'll take up the case here. What I'm trying to say is that let's say there's data over here. This is my data. Okay, this is my data. Now I want to import this data. I want to do something about this data. Let's say I want to build up a data viz report over here. I like to build up a data viz report over here. Now, obviously in Power BI, this is the entire ecosystem of Power BI only. Now, there are two ways of doing it. Either I take the data and straight away put this in Power BI. Okay, we straight away put this in Power BI and start working on the data viz report over here. This is where I click on that particular button called as load the data. Now, there is another way in which I basically go ahead and go for, we click on that particular button called as transform the data. I'm so sorry, I think it's the text is going out of box, but you can understand, right? So now transform the data is, this transformation is actually done in Power Query Editor. Right, this is done in Power Query Editor. So Power Query Editor is that particular tool of Power BI which leads you to data, which helps you do data transformation over here. So simple. If you think that the data is clean and no change in the data needs to be done, okay, from a transformation point of view, there's some minor changes which anyways can be done on the data, that is fine. But if you don't have to transform the data, you don't have to clean the data or feature the data or prep the data, right, then in that case we can straight away move on to loading the data and take the data into Power BI. And you can then model the data, which we'll see very soon. You can then start with the visualization of the data. Or there's a term in between, they think that the data needs a bit of cleaning, data needs a bit of uniformity, it is not that uniform, it's irregular. Then in that case you probably will have to go through the transformation and go through this particular tool called as Power Query Editor. Now let's see what this tool can do for us. Okay, so this is where we have opened the tool. Let me keep this aside. Fair enough. Okay, now let's see what this tool can do. Right, this seems to be a far enough, a clean enough data. What I like to do in this case is, let me close and apply over here. Anyways, we can make our changes over here. For example, let's say plenty of things can be done. Okay, and we can do that. I was thinking probably we can take up a web data from web and can see web scraping over here in Power BI as well, and probably can take up this data. But let's see what we can do with this data. Seems to be far, seems to be clean enough right now. Okay, there are certain, I can see some scope of data cleaning over here, which is good for us. Okay, so not bad. Okay, apologies for this. Right, so okay, let's carry on. Okay, let's say now if I look at it, I need to understand the entire UX UI of this particular field, right? We need to understand what Power Query Editor can do. So let's understand that. Now as you can see, there are multiple tabs over here. Again, just like in Power BI, the same thing can be done from multiple tabs over here. Okay, not all the tabs at this position are important for us, but there are certain very important things that we can do in Power Query Editor. So this is going to be a long video, guys, because I think Power Query Editor has a lot of things to talk about. First of all, let me take you guys to something called as a view. Okay, there are many tabs over here. There's a file tab, then there's a home tab, there's a transform tab over here, there's a column tab, there's a view tab, there's a tools tab. Okay, you know what, let me just increase the display a bit and then we'll continue. All right, better now, I guess. Cool. So yeah, I was talking about, there's a file tab, there's a home tab over here. We click on that, we can see what Power Query Editor can do for us. We can go to transform, plenty of things are there. We can go for add column, we can go for view, we can go for tools, and we can, of course, there's an help column over here. So I think I believe add column, transform, and home are the three very important columns over here, which can help us do plenty of things with our data. But let me start with the view. View helps us to see our data in a certain way. Let me go for this and let me adjust the size over here. Fair enough. All right. Right, so this is where we can see our query setting. This is our data, as you can see. These are our columns over here, and these are nothing but query settings. Now query setting is basically giving you options of plenty of things. One, it is giving you option of changing the name of the data. For example, if I call it, let me call it call center data. Okay, if I call it call center data and enter over here, right, and it says that there is a call center data which already exists, because we have taken both the data sets over here, isn't it? So I can see that this is my, okay, then in that case, let me, okay, I think lot data, and I think this is, let me call it cleaned, or I'll say suggested. Okay, SUG, let me call it. Now if I put enter over here, it's going to change the name of the table over here to call center data suggested, or SUG. Now as we have taken both the data, the original data and the data suggested, okay, let me just open up that Excel file and show you how that actually, how that data actually looks like. So this is a sample data. This is an Excel sheet over here, and this is the data. Quite clearly, it looks like a report. It looks like a summarized report somewhere, right? So as you can see, there is a blank space given over there. There is a heading over here. Then we start with the original table, right? So this is your original Excel sheet, and it's a very small Excel sheet, right? And of course, there are multiple columns over here, and every column has certain data with it. Fair enough. No worries. Cool. I mean, after having a glimpse, now let's look at both the types of data that we have. Now, if this is my original data, now as you can see, there is no changes. There are no changes made by Power Query Editor over here. Power Query Editor has not made any kind of change. It simply has given you the data. Okay, let me take the area over here. It simply has given you the, if there is null in that particular cell, there is null in that particular cell. It has given you call center sentiment analysis data. This was the heading over there in the Excel. Remember, if I go for this, this is Excel sample data and call center sentiment analysis data. This, even this is coming up in Power BI uncleaned version over here. Right, so this is a case in which a Power Query Editor has taken the data as it is. No changes, nothing, no brain applied, nothing, whatever there, I've just taken it up. That's it. Whereas in the suggested table, it has started thinking. It says that, okay, probably the top 3 columns over here are not useful. I don't think the top 3 columns, I'm sure I said top 3 columns. I'm so sorry. I said top 3 rows or 4 rows, or in this case, these top 5 rows over here are not that useful. Can I say this? I think Power BI has realized that these are nothing but headings over here. What I can do now is that I probably can suggest a table in which I've removed those rows over here by myself without the user doing it. Okay. And then take the 6th row as the header. Okay. Because this is highlighted. That's what exactly Power BI has done. And this is the suggestion that Power BI is giving you. This is the suggested part of the data. Okay, right. So yeah, that's the case. Now, whatever steps Power BI has taken, or Power Query Editor has taken, has been listed down over here towards the right hand portion over here in applied steps. Can you just see in applied steps, right? Source, navigator, filter, null, while, all these kind of things are there. And now this was the basic steps over here. These are the steps which I'm more interested in. It says that I removed the top rows. I removed the other columns which are not required, because as we can see in the Excel, there was column number A which was not required at all. It was just for the decoration purposes. Similarly from N to N, O, P, Q and rest of the other columns. So Power BI said that I removed the top rows, which I thought, or I've taken a simple case that it was not required. Now moment I click on one of these steps, it shows that particular version of data which came up when I did this particular step. For example, if I click on this, once I remove the top rows, this is how the data was looking like. Okay, now if I removed other columns, this is how the data was looking like. Now the second one was promoted headers. Now if you can look at it, here the headers are there in the first row. Power BI realizing that, okay, this probably our headers, have promoted this to headers. All this can also be done manually. Don't worry about that. All these can be done manually. Okay. Right. And that's what exactly we are going to do. It's just that I'm trying to tell you that what Power BI, Power Query Editor can do for us. You know, it's called business intelligence tool rather than just a data cleaning tool, Power Query Editor. And then finally, once I made something my header, I think I changed the data type over here as well. I think where did we see the data type change? I think it's over here only. Okay, so these are all the applied steps over here. Right. So I think ideally, in an ideal world, I would have started with this data and I would have let go of this particular data, because I would straight away right click over here and delete it, because I have observed that yes, Power BI or Power Query Editor has done the right thing, that by removing the top rows and the extra columns over here and then making the first row as the header, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But for the academic purposes, for teaching you guys, let's say we do not have that luxury, and I'll remove this particular data over here, just to give you a glimpse that what Power Query Editor can do for us. So I deleted that data and came back to the unclean data. Right, now let's go to this particular part over here, which is view. Before coming to view, let me go to home and do some basic things, and I'll come back to view again, and then we'll explore home transformation and add column tabs again. Okay, now if I look at it, if I just look at this, we can say, all right. See, the first thing that I need to do is to remove the unwanted rows over here, because I can see the first row, the second row and third row are nothing but they're fillers. They're fillers basically. It's not data, isn't it? So what I'll do is I need to remove the first 3 rows simply. Okay. So I'll just go to this and say that, all right, we can go to this particular tab over here in home. In home tab, we can go to this particular group called as reduce rows. So the hierarchy is something like this, guys. Tab, which is home tab. These are all nothing but groups: close, new query, data sources, parameters, query, manage columns. These are all nothing but groups. So we go to home tab, go to reduce rows group, and come to this particular feature called as reduce rows. Now once I click on this, we can see that we can do n number of things over here. We can remove top rows, we can remove bottom rows, we can remove alternate rows over here as well. So we'll keep the alternate rows and remove the other pairs of alternate rows. It removes the duplicate, it removes the blank rows, it removes the error containing rows as well. As of now, my task is very simple. My task is to remove top rows. Which are the top rows? Top 3 rows. So if I click on this, obviously Power BI is going to ask one question: how many rows do you want to remove? Because I don't know. I mean, is it the top row or top 2 rows or top 3 rows? So you have to give the number of rows. And I say that top 3 rows. Now if I click on OK, see, have a look at this. Applied steps towards you right. Right now there is nothing which is happening over here. But the moment I do it, the step that I've taken over here to clean my data will be recorded over here, so that as a user I can go through the steps, right? What steps? And as somebody else will be using this file later on, can also go through the steps that the other user might have taken to clean the data. Okay, so if I click on OK, now there's a step which is coming up, which is called as removed top headers. Okay, removed top rows. Okay, now I can see that, okay, there seems to be a case that, okay, it's these, the first row over here is not data. This is just my column header over here. Fair enough, right? This is my column header. So what I'll do is, I don't have to even click on row number 1. I just have to go to this particular transform group under home tab only, transform group, go to this particular feature called as use first row as headers. Click on it, just click on it. Or you can click on a drop down and see that use first row as headers or use headers as the first row. It's vice versa. Okay, this is going to use the first row as headers. Okay, and now you can see there are 2 steps which has come up. One, of course, the promoted the headers over here. Second one is change type, because as I made the first row as headers, some of them would have changed their type over here. Let me undo this. Okay, let me undo this. This will be fun to watch. See, right now we can see that the column number 4, look at the column number 4 over here. It is giving you ABC123. The data type over here is ABC123, because column 4 can observe that there is something, there's a text called as CSAT score, and there are numbers over here as well. Ideally, column 4 should be numeric data type, isn't it? But as this CSAT score is not counted as a header right now, it's counted as one of the data points. Power BI or Power Query Editor is reading this column as something which contains both text and numbers. But I know as a user that apart from the first row, rest of the other rows are definitely numbers only. So the moment I click on this, use first row as headers, now that CSS score text has become the header, which means that rest of the column now is numeric. So that is why in some of the columns, not all of them, in some of the columns there might be a change in the data type. As you can see that not in this one, of course, in CSAT score we can see now the change data type might have happened over here, might have happened over here, or in any the case. For example, we can see that this is date and so on like this. So we can, with the promotion of headers, there is an automatic changed data type which happens for a few of the columns. Okay, so that is why there are two steps performed simultaneously, although the action taken was one only, but the two steps got performed over here. Fair enough. Even after this, now once I realized that okay, CSAT score is now 1 2 3, because now it observed that okay, this is 1 2 3, which means that which indicates a whole number data set. I think we've already seen data types. So this is whole number data type. Okay, now we can go through the data and we can see that all right, I think this is ABC. ABC indicates textual data, 1 2 3 indicates whole number data, and 1.2, this particular symbol indicates a decimal data. All right, the calendar sign indicates date data. The calendar along with the clock sign indicates date and time kind of a data type. Okay, now this is textual data. Although it also contains number, but it also contains symbols and alphabets. So it's a textual data. Same is with customer name, sentiment, CSAT score, call timestamp, and reason, and city, state, channel, a response time, and call duration. Call duration is automatically taken as in minutes. Then we have call center, which call center every part of. Now this column caught my attention, column 13, because it seems to be having a lot of null value. I'll click on this drop down to see what are the various kind of values. Now I saw that the only values are null values over here. Okay, so I can say that probably column 13, you can remove this. So I can right click over here. In fact, I can do two things. I can either go to remove columns over here, click on this, and I say remove columns. Right, be careful while doing it. Right, click only on remove columns. Do not click on remove other columns, because if you click on remove other columns, Power BI will just keep the selected column and remove the rest of the columns. Okay, so if I click on this particular column, let me see, column 13. So I'll click on the header of this particular column. The entire column got selected. I'll go to choose columns, I go to remove columns, click on remove columns, only that column will get removed. If by mistake I click over here, only that column will be kept and the rest of the other columns will be deleted. Something like this. Oops, I made an error. Right, how can I rectify this? First of all, Control S, Control C, Control V, Control Z, है ना, जिसकी हमें बहुत आदत है, we are absolutely habitual of that, right, will not work on Power Query Editor. What you need to do is to come over here in Control Settings and click on this red icon over here, telling Power Query Editor that okay, I did that step by mistake, please undo this. So if I click on this red icon, I'm removing that step and I restore my data back to the state which it was in before performing that particular step. Okay, now let me click on the column number 13 and let me click on remove columns. The column got removed. Okay, all right, now my data is sort of prepared. Okay, it's kind of prepared over here. What I would require now is to do the transformations which I like. I'll tell you about that, right? So I'll just look at this data. It's a very simple, sweet, small data, right? We'll get slightly better data when I actually go to the real world data sets. Okay, so we'll move on to that as well, don't worry. Now I'll click on view, and view help us do a lot of things over here. One, it gives you, I think the best thing that I like about this view tab is this column distribution and column profile. If I click on column distribution, it's going to give me the distribution of the column. That is 70 distinct and 70 unique values are there. 70 distinct, 70 unique values are there. 5 distinct, 0 unique values are there. Unique data types, I'm saying, right? So this is going to give you the distribution. Right now, let's not worry about the unique, but we can see the distinct, how distinct kind of values are there. For example, when it comes to sentiment, there are 5 different kind of, values are there. For example, neutral, negative, negative, very negative, positive, very positive, and so on like this. So the 5 distinct seems to be very negative, negative, neutral, positive, and very positive. Okay. Here CSAT score, how many distinct values doesn't matter. I think how many distinct values are there, it matters in the category kind of a case over here. For example, in ID it will matter, in sentiment it will matter, in probably reason it will matter, because we can see reason is there only 3 kind of reasons. Very nice, right? City are 57 distinct cities, and we can see there are 45 unique values over there, right? And yeah, this is what is giving me the column distribution over here. 4 distinct and 0 unique values are there, and so on like this, right? Cool. So this is column distribution. So if you want, you can keep it up over there, especially where the distribution of the variable is going to matter. Here, specifically in this data set, I don't think the distribution of the variable is going to matter. So we'll just keep it as it is. Okay. Now, all right. So now what we'll do is, now let me uncheck this column distribution. I'll just go to this and uncheck this. So the column distribution is gone now. Now the better thing that I see about view is column profile. We can click on this, and now we can see the column profile over here. Oops, I don't think it's coming for all of them, but no worries. Okay, it gives us the column profile. Whoa, let's close this. I don't want you guys to, get all, confused right now. So I'll just go to this particular column, and I'll go to column profile. That way it's going to give me the column profile over there. How many values are there? What are the various kind of values? It gives you the column profile here. Okay. You can either get the column profile by clicking on column profile and clicking on column header. The column profile will automatically appear over here. Clicking anywhere else on the data is going to, that column profile will be gone. In sentiment, we can see that many negative and very negative comments are there. So I think this is a data worth analyzing. We can look at the CSAT score over here, and then we can, we can see the distribution over here, that maximum number of CSAT scores that I've got is 3 out of 10, which is alarming, right? So, and then we can see timestamp as well, but I think this is not grouping it up right now. It's giving you timestamp based on a date. Okay. We can see it for reason. This is going to give us, okay, billing is the major concern over here, followed by payments and service outrage. All this thing, we can analyze it over here, column by column. We can also click on this little green line. If I click on this, or if I hover on that, I can see there are 70 valid customer names, 0% error, 0% empty data sets over here. Okay. Now if I just click on this, and fair enough. So if I just click on this green, very thin line over there, it's going to give us how that data is there, right? We can look at how many errors are there in which type of data. Okay, we can anyway see it over here as well in column profile. This is what we can do, or we can go for column quality. Column quality gives us this beautiful data over here. How many valid points are there? Is there any error? We can easily check, is there any error somewhere? Is there any null value somewhere? Empty is the null value. So we can see this seems to be a very, very clean data, because I don't see any empty value anywhere, right? You can forget about having such kind of data in real life. Real life will have messed up data. Right now for academic purposes, we are looking into it, but later on the course we'll move on to real messed up data, okay, and see how that data can be managed, okay. But it would be a data analyst dream to have a data like this in which there is no error, there is no empty data. It's such a beautiful clean data. Now the only work remaining is in the next 10 minutes to build the visuals over there, okay, because an expert data analyst can do it in 10 minutes. So okay, So this is how we can look at the view case over here. We can look at this is the formula bar. I think a lot of you, if you're already habitual on Excel, will be able to understand what I'm talking about over here, right? So this is the formula bar. Now if I click on this, the formula bar will disappear. Formula bar appears. The point is, whatever I click upon over here, that's what is making up your UX UI. I believe column quality is a column that we should have kept, unless we are in the process of transforming the data. At that point of time, we probably can keep it as it is. All right, so this is what we have over here. And let me do one thing. Let me go to, let's minimize this. We can go to advanced editor, go to column. Go to column is simply, we can click on this and we can go to a certain column, which I believe is there. I mean, you can straight away, let's say, go to response time. You'll click on OK. It'll take you straight away to the response time column. This is very, very useful when you see that the number of columns in your data set is like huge, 50, 60, 70 columns are there. And then you need to go to a specific column. Instead of scrolling right and left, you can straight away use that particular portion over here. Right, parameters we can always click on, always allow. Advanced editor will move on to that. Query dependencies will move on to that as well. So this is what view can do for us. Let me get back to home. Now in home, we have a lot of things over here, but let me go to the, we can definitely look into this, but I think there are certain things that I kept it for this particular session. There are certain things that I kept it for future sessions, right? So I think new query, recent sources, and all these kind of things, managing parameters, I'll come back to this. Let me look into what are the various basic things that you can look into. First of all, let me start with this. We can go to, query group over here. We can refresh the preview. Once I refresh it, the data, if there is a change in the data in the original source, the new data, the edit data will also come in over here. Okay, we can click on properties and understand this, right? This is the property. We can define a description about it, right? And we can go to advanced editor. I think we saw that option in view tab as well, but let's not be too carried away with this right now. Advanced editor, this is basically, if you've if you've learned about VBA in Excel, I think this is where you can understand. This is your M language in which you can actually edit your data through codes over here, but we need not to do it, because whatever features are mentioned, the features are going to give us that particular, so we take action on features. The feature will write the code for us and do it in the Power Query editor. That's how it works. Okay. Now, if I click on manage and click on delete, I'll be deleting this particular column. If I click on duplicate, I'll be duplicating this column, and so is the case over here. Let me go to manage columns, but I think we've already seen manage column. Manage column is again choose column. We can again go to column from here, whichever column we want to go to, we can straight away go to that particular column. And you don't have to scroll left and right over here. That is one thing. Okay, so if somebody has worked on Excel, if some of you have worked on Excel, I think you can take Power Query Editor as an advanced version of Excel, as a very, very advanced version of Excel. Choose columns helps us choose certain columns. Now the rest of the columns will be removed from the vision over here. For example, if I remove ID and say channel, if I click on OK, rest of the other columns will be there, but ID and channel. Okay, so you can see the remove, this is acting as removing the column, but I'll undo this, saying that okay, I didn't want to do it, it was just an academic purpose. Okay, right, so this is what choose columns can do. I think we have already seen what remove columns can do. Remove columns and remove other columns we have already seen. We have already seen in reduce rows, we can remove certain rows, we can keep certain rows, we can remove bottom rows as well. Again, if I click on remove bottom rows, Power BI or Power Query Editor is going to ask me how many rows from the bottom you want to remove. Right, so I can click on whatever number I'm finding it suitable and provide it. Okay, this is all for removing the rows. Now the transpose of it, the or I should say the complementary portion of it, is nothing but keeping the rows. Which rows do you want to keep? So if you want to, at times it might so happen that in your data there are 100 rows, but you want to keep the only top 10. In that case, keeping top 10 rows makes more sense than removing the bottom 90 rows, isn't it? So that's the case over here. So we'll keep the top 10 rows, keep bottom rows over here. It's just the complementary thing of removing the rows. Removing rows is removing the rows. Keeping rows is keeping those rows and removing the rest of them. Removing rows is removing certain rows and keeping the rest of them. Simple as that. Right, now if I look at sort, we can sort the data. We can click on this and we can sort the data. The entire data got sorted based on the column entry. For example, all the billing questions are coming over here, all the payments are coming over here, and the service outage. The entire, the entire data got sorted. It's not like that column got sorted. So if I go for this West Virginia and we can go for Z2A, we can now see this is how it comes out to be, right? But no worries, no worries. Let me go for, undoing this, right? So if you believe that something has been done without, much of a case, then you can probably undo your action. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next particular portion over here is transform. Now, this particular group in home tab is very, very important. It's going to split the, see, a lot of functions can be performed over here. First of all, it can read a column for you. It can read a column for you. For example, if you look at this particular column, you can see that the data type is text. If you want to change the data type, you can change the data type from here. CSAT score, you want to change the data type from whole number to decimal number. Power Query is going to say that, okay, do you want to replace it currently? You can click on replace current and say that, okay, I converted this data into a decimal type. We can always undo the step, definitely, right? We've already seen what first row as header can do for us. Okay, we can also make the headers the first row as well. So the first row can becomes the header, and the header can also become the first row of the data, vice versa. Now the two things or the three things that I like in this particular transform tab is nothing but split column, group by, and replace values. Very simply. For example, split columns, let me see where can we split columns. I think ID is a good column to be split over here. Now split column is going to split the data present in that particular column. Again, Excel users will relate to with me on this. We'll click on this and now we can see that the splitting can be done by many ways. For example, we can click on by delimiter. If I click on by delimiter, which is also the most common approach, we can see that the delimiter is coming up over here, or we can say right now there's no delimiter selected, but we can say, okay, I think there's a colon. So basically wherever there is a colon, it's going to split the data based on that. But I see the colon, comma, equal sign, semicolon, space, tab, none of them are there. We are going for a custom one, which is a dash. It makes sense because I want to separate out that PIS and that number. So if I do this, I say that, okay, there are three ways of assigning the delimiter. One is the leftmost delimiter. So if, actually I'll use the tab for this. I'll just use my, this thing. Let me go for a text over here. Let me go for a simple text. Whoa, hello. Yeah. Let me go for a simple text. For example, let's say it is PIS-1269 space AIS. Let's say it's given like this. Now there are two ways in which I can split the data. One is through this dash, the other one is through space. Right. So the point over here is if I go for dash and say that leftmost delimiter, or let me for the time being, let's assume that even this particular part, I'll just write, oops, A also got removed. I'll complete that. Oh, right, it was A. Right, so there are two dashes over here. Now, if I select leftmost delimiter, then in that case, it's going to split the column like this. And the column splitting will be PIS and rest of the part, whatever it is, 1269 space AIS. If I go for the rightmost delimiter, what happens is it's not going to remove the column from here. It's going to start the delimiter location from the rightmost. So in this case, the delimitation will happen from here, or I can say the splitting of column will happen from here. That is PIS 1269 will be one part, AIS becomes the other part. The third one is each occurrence of the delimiter. In that case, what query editor will do is to cut this at every occurrence of this delimiter called as dash. Now there will not be two parts over here. There will be three parts in which the entire text will be split: PIS, 1269 and AIS. Right? That's how delimiter works. Okay. Now if I take you guys, right now I don't want each occurrence of the delimiter because you can see the occurrence mostly is one only. But for the safer side, let me go for the leftmost delimiter. Now once I use this and click on OK, Power Query Editor has basically split the entire data into two portions over here. One is the textual part of it and the second one is the numeric part of it. And it has given id.1, the first split of id column, and id.2, which is the second split of the id column. Okay. Now let me undo this. Okay. And we can say that hello, we can just merge it up back again. Similarly, we can do it over here. For example, I want to understand, for some reason I want the first name and the last name of my customers. So I'll just click on split column and I go to delimiter. Okay, I can go to delimiter and say that now see, Power Query Editor is very smart. Now they realize that if you want to split this column, the only delimiter I'm able to observe in this column is space, isn't it? So Power BI has automatically given you the option of space. And I'll say that leftmost, if I click on OK, something like this is happening. It basically split the entire column into this. Now I can rename this as customer. Clicking on that column, double click on that column. I'll go for first name. I'll go for customer first name. Okay, this is my customer last name. Okay, right, so I have just split the customer first name and last name over here if I want. Similarly, ID, I can see that the ID consists of some alphabets and some number over here, right? So I can also go for the split column over here and say that let's go for the delimiter, and probably we can split the ID into other parts over here. Let me see, is there a is the repetition of the alphabetical portion over here? I'm not sure that the alphabetical portion is being repeated. In fact, we can actually do it by splitting the column first by delimiter. Okay, we can also split the column by multiple cases over here. Okay, I haven't given you the case over here. For example, here I observe that all the first the first three alphabets, all of them are only three alphabets over here, and as a domain head I know that there will be three alphabets only. So we don't need to use the delimiter, we can use it by number of characters. Okay, if I click on number of characters, I say that once as far as left as possible, that is start from the left and go for 3 characters. If I go for OK, now what happens is the 3 characters got split, but the problem is that dash is no longer taken care of. The dash is coming with the numbers. Okay, now once I click on this data, go to let's say view and see what is the column quality. There is no when it is 100%, there is hardly any duplicates over here as well, which means that all of them are distinct. Now if all of them are distinct, I don't know what I'm going to do by splitting them, right? So I'll say that okay, let's come back and have the ID as just one column. Why to split it up then? Because with or without the split, each and every row over here is going to remain distinct, right? So let me keep it as it is. Might not happen with customer first name and the last name, right? So there might be common first name, there might be common last name as well. So let's keep it. I'll go for sentiment. The sentiment is neutral, negative, very negative, positive. Yes, of course. Let me go to home tab over here. So now we can see what split column can do for us, right? If I can click on this again, we can split the column by delimiter. We have seen that already. We can split the column by number of characters. We have seen that as well. By position, it says that okay, position number 4 split the text, right? Now I don't know, right, where is the rest of the text is going to go, but we can see that the other sentiment is gone. It has just taken the split and from that particular position it's taken into account over here. So let me close this. Okay, let's come back over here and we can explore this. Similarly, we can split the column by lowercase to uppercase. This is where the text is going in lower cases. Suddenly there's an uppercase appearing. I want to split it from there. It is very useful at times. Yeah, from uppercase to lowercase. Uppercase is running, the other part is lowercase. I want to separate the uppercase part and the lowercase part, so I'll go for uppercase to lowercase. So the uppercase is running, and as soon as the first lowercase is observed, split happens from there. Brilliant. By digit to non-digit, the digit is coming and suddenly the digit numbers are there, and then the first non-digit character occurs, the split will happen from there. Now from digit to non-digit, from non-digit to digit, from uppercase to lower, lower to upper, has an advantage that it will happen at any point of time for all the entries over here, or probably I'll rephrase the words properly. It will happen at the appropriate point of time for every cell value. For example, if I go for digit to non-digit, if one row is something like this, from digit to non-digit, I'm talking about digit to non-digit. Okay, so it's something like 169 A436 AU36, let's say. From digit to non-digit, A comes in over here. Now the split will happen 3 plus 4 over here. But if I have another value in the same column having 18439 AB8, then in that case, for this, the split will happen from over here, because the way I'm splitting is from digit to non-digit. As soon as the first non-digit character comes in, you split. Now that might happen after 3 characters or 4 characters, or might not happen at all, isn't it? So that's the point. That's the advantage I'm getting these kind of splitting. You can definitely explore it further, 100%. Okay. Then we can move on to replace values. Brilliant cases, especially for cleaning the data. For example, I'm not seeing a lot of case for replacing the value over here. Let me see. For example, column 13 I forgot to remove. So I'll right click over here and remove this. This can also be removed from removing the columns. Right, this is a classical example of splitting the column over here, don't you think? If I just look into it, I'll say the split the column by delimiter, and the delimiter is, can you just see, observed automatically as backward slash, right? So if I just click on this, I can remove the call center one and the code of that particular location. Okay, so this is my, let me call this, double click on the header, location 2, and this is my call center CC location. Let me call it CC location. Okay, enter. Right, now replacing the values will simply work for replacing any value. For example, I said that these neutral, negative, very negative, or let me look into something else. Okay, I can see that the billing questions, and payments, I think I can see only 3 categories over here. I said billing questions, payments, and service outage. Let's say I want to convert billing questions into BQ, payments into P, and service outage into SO, so that I have the short forms over there. Okay, or I can say billing related, payment related, and service related, whatever. If I want to replace the text, how can I do that? I'll just click on this reason and click on replace values. Sorry, I'll click on reason, as in I'll click on the column reason over here, column header. I'll click on, just a minute, I'll click on replace values, and I'll say what is the value that you want to replace. I said that I want to replace something called as billing questions. Okay, and I'll say that this is my BQ. Okay, I'll say that this is my BQ. Now if I go for this and click on OK, let me see what is the advanced options. Okay, forget it. Right, if I click on OK, now the entire billing questions should have been replaced by BQ, but didn't happen. Very interesting. Why didn't happen? See, now it will happen. Space billing questions, replace it by BQ. Oh, didn't happen. again. Okay, am I using a wrong text over here? Let me click on this. Apologies, I'll go for billing. Right, let me go for, I hope I'm using the correct spelling. B-I-L-L-I-N-G, B-I-L-L-I-N-G, and there's a space over here. Question. I was going for questions. Okay, so I'll go for BQ. Yeah, now it happens. So billing questions are now replaced by BQ. I can click on replace again and I'll go for payments. You have to enter the text as it is. Can be P, let's say. I click on OK, it becomes P. The final one is service outage. So I'll click on replace values. I'll go for service outage. Okay, and I'll call it SO. Click on OK. Right, so people with technical term occupies less space, isn't it? Occupies less space, that's why. Right, so I'll convert it this over here. There we go. Right, and I think we can have channel. Let me see in view how many different kind of values are there. There are 4 different kind of values over here. All right, cool. Right, so let me uncheck this, or let me keep it checked. No worries. I'll click on home. Right, and channel is chatbot, call center, and that's the problem with keeping that column profile on, because whenever you click on the column, the profile will come up. So I'll just uncheck this. Okay, within SLA response time, there are 2 kinds of response time with this service level agreement, below service level agreement, and within SLA. So I can see SLA is not required over there, isn't it? Right. Response time, I can say that response time, I'll say response time, and I'll say SLA wise. SLA wise will simply means that how much response have you done over here as compared to SLA. Now I can say that, okay, I can just click on this, go to home tab and go to replace values, and what I'll do is I'll replace SLA by what? Nothing. In that case, the SLA entire phrase, it gets removed. SLA is gone. So I have the column as within, below, above. If you wanted, you can replace it with W, I, and B. Right. Now call duration is in minutes. Absolutely. CC level, we can look into it, and these are all things. I think we'll take further columns over here and other columns and probably other data sets to understand what transform can do for us. Then we have something called as combining. We'll move on to this because I have only one file. I cannot show how can we combine. There are 2 kinds of combinations possible. One is merging queries, other one is appending. Okay, and there are certain AI insights, and again, let it be for future use. I'll come back to these kind of things in Power Query Editor. So this is my home tab. Now if I go to transform tab over here, then we have again plenty of things that we can look into. Okay, in home tab, I haven't told you something called as group by. I am saving it for the last. I'll come back to it. Okay, because this is actually pivoting my data. I'll come to that. Now transform data over here again can transform the data in almost no time. You can see a lot of things are there in this particular there. For example, split column, entire split column group is over here. Okay, by the way, if let me see, we right click over here and we can go for quick access toolbar ribbon. Okay, this is the case over here. I think we can uncheck that. I'm so sorry for that. I'll right click and say let's not worry about that. Guys, ignore, don't worry. Right, so I'll just come back to this data and take you to transform. We have already seen first row as headers. Group by, will see it soon. Transpose is a beautiful thing. It's a very nice thing. Transpose is going to exchange the x-axis and the y-axis, the rows and the columns. So whatever are rows right now will become column. Whatever are columns will become rows. Let me click on this, transpose. The moment I do it, can you see that these are nothing but my, now you can see column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are all nothing but what? My, this thing, columns over here, right? The columns will become rows, the rows will become column. In fact, I think, let me do one thing. I'll actually take the entire data into account. Control. Anyways, if I had to select multiple columns over here, I'll just click on one column and shift, control shift. Oops, not happening. Why not? Yeah. Okay. Right. I'll go for this. Control and clicking on that particular column is going to take you to that particular portion. Control, click on that column. I'm selecting multiple columns over here. Right. Now if I click on the entire table over here, I'm not able to do that just like I used to do it on Excel. No worries. I'll just keep my data over here. If I transpose, one thing I'm pretty sure was that the column header should have come, but for some reason it's not coming. No worries. Right, it has transformed what were rows into columns and what were columns into rows. Okay, so this is something probably is never required in a big data. I'll transpose again and I'll get my data back on track. Okay, we can reverse the rows. That is what reversing the rows simply doesn't change the data. It says that whatever was there at the last row will now become the first row will become the last row. Yeah, for kids to play around with the data. We can count rows as well, right? How many rows are there? We can easily see that there are 70 rows here. Okay, now we can hit escape and go back. Whoa. Okay, probably I'll just uncheck that count rows. Okay, now this is my table group over here in transform tab. We can go to any column. Let's move on to the next group, which is any column. In this we can see detect data type, we can see rename, we can replace values over here as well, right? We can replace values, replace errors, but I think we have seen replace values in the small transform group over here. All right, we will see that multiple features are being repeated over here in various tabs. Okay, now let me click on this something called as fill. Fill is important. Fill is used to replace null values. If I click on this drop and say fill down and fill up, it simply means something like this. Yes, see, it simply means that if, let's say, these are the values, I'll just make some space here. Oops, I'll just make some space here. So it's something like this, guys. So there's a data like 23, 36, 43, and there's a null value, there's an empty value over here, and there's, let's say, 48, 69, 34, and let's say there's another null value over here, then we have 42, and so on like this. So we can see that we have null values over here. Over here, these are the two null values. Okay, now these are the two null values. Now fill up or fill down, right? Fill down would have been, if I just click on this, the null values over here will be fill down, as in fill down, that is the value up of that particular null, just above that particular null value will take it up over here. So here the filling will happen using 43, and here it will come out to be 34. So it says fill down, which means that the value up will fill the null value down in case there is a null value. That's the meaning. Okay, fill down means every value fill down the null value below it in case it is present. That's the meaning over here. Fill down is a command which says every value fill down the null value just below it in case it is there. Okay, similarly fill up says every value fill up the null value present above you. So in this case these values would have been 48 and 42. Simple as that. Now Power Query editor is not known for filling the null values. I think null value treatment and various other kind of treatments can be done over here. Yes, in Power Query, in Power BI we can do it, but I think the programming languages like Python and R are better tools to fill up the null values over there. So filling up the null value is something that you can only do manually over here in Power Query editor. You cannot apply logic here. We can, but that is of very high standards over here. So let's keep ourselves refrain from that right now. We'll move on to that during the course. Even after considering that, I believe that Power BI is not a tool to fill the null values. Okay, pivot and unpivot column, my favorite. I'll just move on to them, right? Because I think the data over here doesn't look like we can pivot the columns over here. But even if you, let's see, if you want to go for this, if I go for pivot column, and I'll go for column 2, column 3, if I go for OK, it happens something like this. What is happening, you'll not be able to make sense out of it right now. So it's better, I'll show it to you in a data which can be done in a proper way. But if you've done Excel, you already know what do you mean by pivot tables and pivoting the data. Okay. Now for the moment being, just like group by, let me hold this up, and when the appropriate data comes in, I'll come in over here and talk about pivoting and unpivoting the columns. Okay. Now let me move on to move. Move is simply going to move a certain columns. Oh, hello, what happens over here is that, hello, I think I've lost my data. I think I've lost my header somewhere, right? This is 70, right? I think I just lost my header somewhere. So what I need to do is to just, yeah, it reversed the row. So it was actually, it took my rows, took my column header right at the bottom. So let's not do that. Okay. Right. So this is what this is doing to me. Now let's click on move. Let's say I say that, okay, ID is important, I believe. Okay, what is happening? I think I'm probably, let me not transpose the table either, right? I want my data as it is. Okay, no worries. Cool, right? So the column headers are there now. Great. Now somebody might say that, sir, I want customer first name to be the first column. In fact, ID should be the third column. So it should be customer first name, last name, or for some reason you want to move some columns together and some of the other columns, well, together. Let's say somebody says that let's keep all the textual column together and all the numeric column together over here as well. Right. So right now I'm just clicking on this and I say that this is my whole number. So I change the data type over here. Right, guys, you saw that? I'll just do it again. So ABC123, if I just click on this, I want to change the data type over here. The data type is integral. So I'll just click on this data type and we'll say that I want to convert this into a whole number. I converted this into a whole number. Okay. Right. Anyways, we were there in this move tab. Let's say I want to move the CSAT score somewhere closer to my call duration over here so that I can keep the numerical columns together. So I'll just click on that column. Okay, I'll just click on CSAT score, click on move, and let's say move to the end. If I click on move left, the column will start moving towards the left. So it'll come before sentiment. Okay, it'll come before sentiment. If I click on this move and take it to the right, it'll come to its original position. I can take it like, I can always keep on taking it to right and we can do that, but it's better that click on this and take the column towards the end and click on the other numerical column and take this column towards the end as well, so that the numeric column now are together. So CSAT score is there and now location 2 is there, everything is there. Okay, cool. Now convert to list is going to basically convert a certain column, the elements in that particular column, into a list. Well, if I click on this, it gets converted into a list. Let me undo this and get back my data. Okay, now this is the case. Let me go to the transform tab again, and we've seen the split column, but there are certain cases over here in text column. I think this particular part, which is text column in Power Query Editor, is quite important, because this is the particular group which is going to bring out the changes in my text columns over here, text related columns, which is quite important for us to perform. Let's see how it does. Now if I click on format, right, it can basically convert any particular column. Let me choose a column first. I'll choose this column. So it can convert this into all lower cases. So the entire column is now lower cases. If I click on this, it can convert the entire column into upper cases. All columns are now upper cases. Okay. It can say that whatever text is there, capitalize the first letter or first character of every word. So I'll capitalize each word. Now I got capitalizing each word over here, just like it was at the start, isn't it? Alright, so trim, clean, add prefix, add suffix, we can do that, of course. Trim is something that we can, do. What trim does is, again, I'll use my, whiteboard to explain this. What trim does is, if let's say there's a text over here, let's say my name, Saurabh, and there's space over here and space over here. Let's say, for some reason, while entering the data, there is a human error, and somebody who entered the name, instead of S being the leftmost character is a space followed by S. So S becomes the second character from the left instead of becoming the leftmost character, isn't it? Now what trim does is it's going to trim out all the spaces from left and right of a text. But if there is a space in between, for example, if the text is written Saurabh space M, and there are spaces over here, if I apply trim function, it's going to trim out all the spaces from left and right, but it's not going to touch the space in between the text over here. Okay, so if I apply trim over here, you probably will not be able to see a lot of cases here because I don't think there's a lot of spaces anywhere. But yet if I just click on, let's say, this particular column and say that, click on format and say trim, so trim would have trimmed out the spaces from left and right had it been there, or in case it is there in some of the values below in the column. Okay, I'll click on format and I'll click on clean the data. Now once I clean, the text will be cleaned over here, right? So I think we can keep it as it is. We can add a prefix, we can add a suffix. Adding a prefix, for example, let me see, CSET score and call duration. Okay, let's say there is a sales amount somewhere, you want to add $1. Let's say this is, for the moment being, let me assume this is these many $1 million. Okay, let's say this is my $1 million kind of column. I'm taking the assumption for academic purposes. I'll just then cancel out the steps. Okay, now if I click on this and I say add prefix, you can add a prefix. Let's say $, and okay, then will become $8. All of them will become $8, but said that I wanted a space between $ and the number. Great, then in that case go to format, and now you can, okay, I cannot edit the prefix, so what I need to do is to again undo my step over here, click on this again and click on format, add prefix, and I'll say that $ space. So $ space will come before every number, $8. Now if I right click and remove it, I can see there's a CSAT score coming back over here. Similarly, I can add a suffix over here. Alright, not a big thing. Now let me move on to extract and parse. Now if I click on this particular column, which is a textual column, I'll click on extract. Extract means I can extract a certain text. I can extract a certain text from the bigger text. It might so happen that, let's say, do we have anything like this? Well, not, but no worries, probably you can just I want to, let's say, extract the first name and the last name, first letter and the last letter from the customer first name. I can click on extract, and extract also gives me a range of options over here. Extract is like splitting the column. The only difference between extract and splitting the column is splitting the column will keep both the split portions, but extract is just going to extract that. For example, if I have a text, for example, let's say I have a text like AIS1269, and if I say that extract only AIS by giving the appropriate command, then the column will become AIS only. Whereas in split column would have actually given you two more columns. First one is this, the other one is this. But in extract, it will not happen. In extract, it will just extract that particular portion which you want to extract. The rest of the text in that particular cell is gone. You cannot recover it unless you, change your or undo your step over there. Okay, let me do it. let's say I go to extract and click on length. Based on length, I say that let's go for the, oh, I'm so sorry. Extract the length will actually go for extracting the length of that particular character. I'm so sorry for that. I'll move on to what I actually meant. Okay, so this is going to give me, it says that the customer first name, this character consists of only 7 letters. This is 8 letters. This is 10 letters, right? If I extract and if I go for first characters, now I can say first characters will actually say that, let's say I want to go for first 3 characters. If I go for first 3 characters, then it's going to extract first 3 characters and remove the rest of them. For example, Francis will have FRA, NCES will be gone, Washington will have WAS, and so on like this. Right, so this is basically the case. Rest of the text is gone. Can be used for password creation, something like that, isn't it? Then we can click on extract last characters, just like we did it for first character, we can do it for the last character. We can do it actually for a range as well. If I click on range, what is your starting index? I'll say that do one thing, start from the 3rd character and get me 4 characters. So start from the 3rd one, get me the number of characters as 4, which means that 3rd character, 4th character, 5th character, and the 6th character will be displayed over here. If I click on this, you can see this is 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Some of the text doesn't go up to 3rd character or 4th or 5th, 6th character at all. So whatever number of characters are left are being displayed over here. Okay, I can again undo over here. We can see Rafe, if I start from the 1st character, that's the only character left now because there is no 5th, 6th or any other character from there. Right, so that's the case, guys. This is what extract can do for us. We can extract text between delimiters. We can extract text before delimiter. For example, if there's a delimiter, for example, I'll put it on ID. Let's see if I click on ID and I say let's go for length and extract the text before the delimiter dash. And what is your delimiter? I said that my delimiter is dash. Now if I extracted, that numerical portion of the ID will be gone. Okay, if I click on it, that's gone. Let's undo it. Extract again, text after delimiter. The delimiter is that dash, kahan gaya bhai? Dash. And if I click on OK, now the alphabetical portion, the caps alphabetical portion will be gone along with the dash. What remains is only the numerical portion of it. Done. Okay. So this is how we can extract certain text over here. Well, we can parse. We'll come back to this. I think we can go for XML and JSON files over here, but let's not worry about it. Now for numerical columns, plenty of things can also be done. For example, let me get to the numerical column of CSAT score. Statistical values are also there. We can sum it up. It gives me the sum, which is 373. I undo this so that I can get back to the original form of the data. We can, where is my transform tab? Transform tab is over here. We can go for statistical thing. We can go for standard addition, multiply, subtract, divide, integer divide, modulo, percentage, or percent off. Right? We can actually give it a percent off as well. For example, let me see the call duration over here. Every call duration can be made a percent off something. Let me go for this. So I'll go for standard and go for percent off, and the value is, let's say 50 or let's say 100 or anything. Yeah, let's go for 50. Why 50? Because I believe that, or probably I'll say that 20 minutes, because I believe that 20 minutes should be the ideal time for a conversation. So I like to convert them into percentages of 20 over here. If I click on this, now I can see that, okay, this is 70% of the ideal time, this is 160% of the ideal time, this is 30% of the ideal time. Okay. Again, this is too much specificity in the numerical data. Okay. We can go for modulo. Modulo means if I divide it by any value, let's say modulo 3, I can go for dividing it by 3. I'm getting the remainder when that particular number is divided by 3. That is the meaning of modulo. For example, let's say somebody says that, okay, if I divide a certain numerical column into, some number of portions, how can I do it? I can do it like this. So all the statistical, variables like sum, minimum, maximum, median, average, standard deviation, count values, count distinct values will be present over here. Okay. Standard ones are over here. So we can go for addition, multiplication. Addition will simply mean that add something to every value. For example, if I add 5 to every value, you can observe that this 14 will become 19, 32 will become 37. Okay, and so on like this. Again, I'll uncheck my steps. Right, so this is what number column can do. We have trigonometric function over here as well, right? We can see rounding of functions over here as well. For example, if there's, round up or round down, you want to round up a certain number, or you can round down a certain number, or you want some other level of custom rounding up of that particular number, you can do that. I want to round this up to 2 decimal places. If I click on OK, 14 will now be represented as 14.32 had there been a decimal portion. Okay, let me get back over here and in fact undo that step only. Right, similarly we have a lot of things for date and time. I mean, there is no dearth of functions in Power Query Editor. So we just covered text column, we have covered number columns, we have covered date and time column over here. Now if I click on date, right now I'm not able to use any one of this. Why? Because I'm not clicking on any date and time column. Now once I click on a date and time column, the date and time function will get activated. Now I can do a number of things over here, right? I can say that give me the year of this particular date. I get the year. I say that, right? Now once I convert this into year, this is no longer a timestamp, right? So that is why I need to undo my step. I click on date and say that, okay, give me the month. I can see the month, the start of the month, the end of the month, days in month, how many days are in the month of that particular date. What is the name of the month? We can easily get the name of the month over here as well. Okay, don't try Control Z, guys, it will not work. You have to come to the applied steps and cancel that step. Okay, similarly we can do a lot of things with time over here, right? Now time and duration features are not getting activated because this is a date function. There is no time part in this particular column, but had it been there, this would have been activated, right? So this is what date and time column can do for us. Now there's running Python script over here, running R scripts over here. This is high level stuff. If time permits, we'll move on to this as well. Okay. Now I'll move on to add column. Add column again is going to add a certain column. But I think let's not cover too much in this particular data or this particular session over here. I'm so sorry, I'm calling it data. In this particular session, let's not, do too much about it. We'll move on to adding the column, right? And adding the column conditionally when we actually look into the other subjects over here of moving the data, right? So let me move on to that. Whereas I think we can just look into this, that we can, create certain columns over here. We can create the column using format. For example, I can just click on this sentiment, click on this format and say that let's go for an uppercase of this. What happens is the original column will be there. The original column of sentiment will be there. What it does is it adds up another column in which the entries over here will be all upper. Okay, so we actually inserted a column using this. That's the difference between performing the same thing in transform tab. In transform tab, I'm transforming the same column. In add column, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm adding a column. So I'm preserving the original data and adding a column over there. Okay. We can go for duplicating a column, we can go for parsing things, we can go for extract something, we can go for conditional column over here, and a number of things. Conditional column is basically going to ask for a condition, right? For example, if I say, let me go for something like this. Now let's discuss it if you have started. Okay, let me see CSAT score. Okay, I think generally industry takes CSAT score of 9 and 10 as somebody is promoter, and I think something which is from 6, 7 and 8 as neutral, or anything which is less than 6 as, there's a term related to it. I think there's a promoter, and I think there's a term, I'm not able to recall it, but we can give it a term over here, right? So if let's say I go for conditional column and say that if the custom column, right, new column name is CSAT category, right? I'll go for category. Okay, and my condition is if my CSAT score, if it is greater than or equal to 9, let's say, okay, is greater than or equal to 9, Then output would be, what is the output? He is a promoter, right? Promoter. You know what, I'm not able to, you know, digest the fact that I'm not able to do it. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly, you know, look into it. Promoter and neutral. Maybe I'll get something out of internet. Guys, my spelling is pathetic, okay, so please pardon me in case I do it. Net promoter score, I think this is passive, promoter, passive and detractors, right? So I think this was these are the three terms I was looking forward to, so I'll just use this over here, right? So this is promoter. Now what I'll do is I'll click on this and I can either delete this or add another clause. This is going to add another condition. So if the CSAT score is greater than 9, then he's a promoter. If it is, I'll say less than something, right? So it'll be easier for us. So if I go for CSAT score is less than or equal to, let's say 6, then he is a, oops, how can I forget the term so quickly? Detractor, correct. He's a detractor. So I'll just call him detractor. Okay. Else, finally there is a condition called as else. So if these two conditions are not met, what should I do? I'll say that this guy is passive. He's harmless, or neither, he's not useful and he's also harmless. So kuch karega nahi, right? So if I click on OK, a conditional column will be created over here. So this is what is my conditional column. CSAT category, passive, detractor. So which customers are passive, which customers are detractors over here. I'll be able to do this. Right guys, so this is my Power Query editor. Is there anything that I'm doing? So all these things can give me a new column over here. Okay, we can invoke a customer column, we can go for a conditional column, we can, all these are, you know, examples over here as well, right? So you can just, most commonly used are conditional columns. Okay, now let me get back to transform tab over here for the one last 10 minutes of discussion, and you know, show you what transform tab can do for us. In fact, in transform I was very keen on discussing something called as group by. Okay, let me do it. So if I click on group by, what will happen over here guys is that the customer first name, it's going to group the data based on certain elements over here. Let me see. If I say, let's say group by sentiment, and what do you want? I want count. Give me the count of rows. For example, I just right now want to see that how many, how should I say, customers are there belonging to each and every category. That's what I want to see. So I'll just click on OK. Now it's giving me the count of each and every type of sentiment. So it's giving me neutral, negative, very negative, positive, and very positive. Again, if you guys have used Excel, you would, you know, recall. I'll just keep my tab over here. I don't think I need it anymore. So, you would have used Excel, you would need, you'd understand that, okay, this is what I can do with pivot tables, if you've used pivot tables. If not, nothing, not to worry. What it has done is it has just grouped the entire data over here. So all the neutrals are being counted, all the negatives are being counted, all the very negatives are being counted, similarly positive and very positive. I can see that I'm right now blessed with more negative than positive over here. Again, I can right click and click on drill down. That way what happens is I can get that particular number. As such, right now there's nothing much to drill down over there. It was just 29. Okay, now if I just get back to my original data set, right, by unchecking that particular thing, we can also group by over here by, let's say, sentiment is done. Let's go for city, and I want to understand city wise. The new column name can be something. It can be like average CSAT. I'll say average CSAT. So I want to understand city wise CSAT. City wise average CSAT. Now I'm trying to enter into analytics. Okay. So it will be average of the CSAT score based on city. Give me the average of CSAT score for every city and name the column as average CSAT. If I click on OK, I can see that, okay, this is the average CSAT score over here. Can I sort it out? Can I just click on both the columns over here and click on sort? Let me try this the other way. Is there any way? Hello. Okay, we can probably move on to it later on. But I would have loved to sort this data. Okay, I can see that this is, okay, so there's a city called as Pensacola, has something like 10 as a CSAT score over here, right? So a city like Harrisburg has 9 as my CSAT score. Let me undo this. We can again group by, and this time let's say I want to go for group by. Let me go for group by state or probably channel, let's say. And this time I like to see what is my average call duration. Average call duration. Okay, and I can go for find the average of call duration. I click on OK. Now I can see that in chatbot the average call duration is 29. Okay, it's here 24, 27, 24. I can see that in chatbot the call duration goes higher. So people interact higher on chatbot as compared to call center or email or web. Interesting. Okay, as far as the channel is concerned. So this kind of analysis can be done by group by. Group by is basically pivoting your data. Simple as that. Okay. So this is what entire Power Query editor can do for you. Now this is the list of all the changes that we have made in our data. Given that this was a clean data, this was like a dream for me. Even in such kind of data, I probably have to make these many changes. In unclean data, I might have to make a lot of changes over there and the list can be very, very high. But please remember this thing, that now I want to upload this clean data in my Power BI. So I'll have to remember that under File tab, there is something called as Close and Apply. Only when you click Close and Apply, the changes that you've made will be saved. Otherwise, the changes that you've made, if I click on this drop down and click only on Close, the changes that are made will not be applied. I'll just say Apply. The changes will be applied. It's better to go for Close and Apply once you're done. Okay. Now if I close and apply, now we can see that the same data is being taken into Power Query and is being now done. As you can see, there's a CSAT score coming up over here. There's a CC location. There's a channel. Now we can see there's a sentiment, and I'm sure there is a CSAT category. This is the column which we just created over here, isn't it? That's the stuff I was talking about with Power Query editor. Now, the next thing that we'd like to talk about is data modeling. How can we do data modeling? Very simple part, and then we'll move on to visualization in Power BI. So practice. Take any data from internet with a plenty of data in Kaggle, in various platforms. Take up any data, practice these things, and let's meet in the next session with further updates in Power BI. Thank you.